All right.
2, 1. Welcome to the Grinning Goat Boomsday card review. We're gonna go card by card, and we're gonna tell you all their tier list values for the Lightforge tier list and how we think you should play them, how good they are, whether they're good for their bucket or not, which is really the most important thing. Anyway, we are the Grinning Goat. I am Adwikta.
This is Merps. We're going to start off with neutrals, the cards that will have the most impact on the arena because every class can pick it.
Yeah,
Hot take.
it is the backbone of the arena, and especially now when they reduced class card offering rates by like 50%. Like they just slashed them. It wasn't like let's take away 20% of the class cards, which would be a reasonable discount. They were like, nope, 50%. That's how we roll. Remember when they were balancing Diablo 2? Sorry, 3 back in the day? It's like, so then we doubled it. That's kind of Blizzard's approach to doing things. They're like, oh yeah, you guys thought your decks were too good in the arena? You thought that was too much like constructed? Or we're gonna have your good cards.
It's just double or having everything. That's it. That's it. But anyways, we're talking about neutrals, so we're going to organize this by buckets because that's how Blizzard organizes everything now. We're going to start from the top buckets, work our way down. Anything more you want to say before we begin?
If you want to know what we're looking at right now, we're looking at the Lightforge Arena tier list at thelightforge.com. It is the tier list we upkeep. We have an algorithm. That's where all these numbers are coming from. If you want more information, watch the video prior to this one in the series where I kind of run down what all these numbers mean. But generally, the higher the better, the lower the worse. The bucket information, by the way, all comes from Blizzard. They gave us a very helpful post. They gave everybody a very helpful post. It's public in the blog. And Chris, one of the devs, kind of did a little write up and then gave us a huge chart with a whole ton of info. And we have incorporated the info into our algorithm and into this chart. This is the bucket system. You can also look at the tier list in other ways if you don't want to look at the bucket. But buckets are the way to understand the arena right now, because when things are misbucketed, you pick them and you win more games. That's the easiest way to win more games. So let's start with the card, the only card that is neutral that Blizzard had the audacity to put in the very first bucket. They think this card is so good that it needs to be competing with Primordial Drake and Bone Mare and Kobold Scalebane, or else it would be unfair.
Right. This card is Arcane Dynamo. Arcane Dynamo is a 6-mana, 3/4 jellyfish creature that has Battlecry. Discover a spell that costs 5 mana or more. Once again, you're discovering a big spell. Spells are typically good in Hearthstone. And with a card like this, you see sort of its average-ish neutral value at a 118 here. But this card is a card that we really need to look class by class, because 5 mana spells or more differ significantly in terms of how many each class has and how good these spells are and how what they're used for. So I think here's what we'll do. Let's go through the classes one by one. Adwikta, you introduce sort of the score for each class, and then I'll go through the specifics.
All right. Let's start with obviously the best class to take this card in, Druid. All right, you take it, you get an ultimate infestation every time, and you win the game. Right? It's a 130. It beats out Bone Mare. Not quite a Primordial Drake. And by the way, if you notice from our tier score on Kobold Scalebane, we think Kobold Scalebane is heavily overrated by Blizzard. I'm also not sure why good or bad players are interacting with it, or why its win rate is supposedly so high. But its HS replay win rate is not that high. So at least above average players are not having the luck with it that they do with other cards, and we definitely dislike it heavily in its bucket. We think it should go way low, probably fourth bucket, maybe third bucket tops. So Arcane Dynamo is not really competing with Kobold Scalebane. You're almost always going to take an Arcane Dynamo over a Kobold Scalebane unless you have too many card advantage. It's whether you are picking it with the other two giant things or class cards.
Yep. So when we start off with Druid, or when we talk about any class, I want to establish exactly how many spells are within this pool and the probability to discover any specific one. So for Druid, you are going to have 8 spells within this pool that you're discovering from. Your chance of discovering a specific one is 37.5%.
What?
So if you want Yeah, I know. It's not a guaranteed UI. I'm sorry.
But
I know you promised them that.
uh,
This is trash now, apparently.
what
Anyways, I know.
what other
Spend
spells
some
can you
time to
get?
recover.
What other?
So with Druid, you're gonna see for some later classes that it's sort of you're guaranteed to get like this one type of card. With Druid, they have in very Druid-like fashion, good versatility, good options with all 8 spells that are within this pool. You have Starfire and UI for some sort of direct damage and card draw. Although it's kind of I feel bad lumping Starfire in with UI. It's just not fair to Starfire. You have Starfall, for AoE. You also have Spreading Plague for kind of an AoE like effect, right? And then if you want draw, you have Nourish. And if you want tempo, you have Living Mana. So those are sort of the standout spells that Druid have, right? You also have like Web Weave, etc. They're all good cards. It's just not like other classes in which you say, I need an AoE, and I'm going to get it with Arcane Dynamo. I need so-and-so, and I'm going to get it with Arcane Dynamo. Druid, you're going to get a really good spell.
I need a Treant. I'm gonna get Force of Nature.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm like, I didn't mention what. Notice I mentioned like basically all of them except for one. You could get Treants with it if you want that, if you're really into the Treant synergy. But that's really the theme of Arcane Dynamo within Druid. Just lots of flexibility, lots of versatility, but no guarantee to get any specific thing.
Cool. All right. So that's Druid. So not as good as I thought it was, but still it's versatile, right? It's not just UI. It's not one dimensional. It's versatile.
If you want UI, it's about 40% chance for you to get it.
All right.
That's what you should remember.
All right. So moving on to Hunter, Arcane Dynamo is a 106. That's like pretty bad. Although in Hunter everything's a little skewed because Hunter really likes like face damage and being aggressive. So like a lot of things, like anything that doesn't deal face, like look at Cobalt Scalebane, right? It's a 95. Anything that's not like really aggressively hitting the face, it's significantly lower than another class. So 106 it's still not great in Hunter.
It's not great because of the speed. And here's what you see in Hunter. Hunter has a much smaller pool. Hunter only has 5 spells that you get to choose from. So the probability to discover a specific one is 60%.
Oh.
If you want a specific card, if you really need that Crushing Walls, it is a 60% chance to get Crushing Walls.
Although you can't play it on the same turn.
Exactly.
You can't play any of these on the same turn. So keep that in mind. Because they are all 5 mana or more, and this is a 6 mana card.
That's the awkward thing about Arcane Dynamo. Like, they specifically made it like this, right? So that it's almost always going to be a next turn play. But unlike Druid, Hunter, you can guarantee some sort of minion removal / AoE, because out of the 5 spells, 3 of them are Explosive Shot, Crushing Walls, and Flark's Boomzooka.
Legendary.
Legendary, yeah. You have guaranteed minion removal of some sort. That's 100%. So if you just want some minion removal, you are guaranteed that with Hunter, which is, nice to know. But once again, you're spending 6 mana to get a 3/4, which is not really what Hunters want. The other 2 spells, Spellstone, which is really good, right? If you want the reload, and then you can pick To My Side.
You
for
cannot
means.
pick To My Side. Not
So
allowed.
those are your choices. You also have a really high chance to get the Spellstone, right? So if you need a reload, you can also get that. But you are absolutely guaranteed to get minion removal, and that's what you should remember with Hunter when it comes to Arcane Dynamo.
All right, so Mage has to be good. Mage is next. And I see Arcane Dynamo is at a 112, which is below like everything else at 6 mana. So Mage is actually apparently not that good. Why is Mage not so good? Mage is I feel like Mage has like your Flame Strikes and your Meteors, right?
Yeah, so Mage has 8 spells that cost 5 or more. The probability to discover a specific one is 37.5%. Same as Druid, right? Now, you almost guarantee AoE. Almost. Because you have, out of those 8 spells, you have Meteor, Dragon's Fury, Flame Strike, and Blizzard. There is a chance that you don't get any AoE, but that chance is really, really small. So it'll happen to you every single time, yes. But that's sort of the theme of the Mage Discover. You're going to get an AoE, right? And other sort of notable spells, Pyroblast, that's a huge one, right? Like you can get Pyroblast. And then the other cards is just sort of like, you have Deck of Wonders, Glacial Mysteries, Luna's Pocket Galaxy. Those are ones that I don't think people in the arena are going to be taking. So really, you're just looking at AoE here, or you have about a 40% chance-ish to get the Pyroblast if you need it.
So the problem with Arcane Dynamo in this Mage, and the reason why the score is so low, is because there's so much trash in Mage that your choice of Discover is not like very choosy a lot of the time. Like, you don't get to choose which one you want. You just take the only one that is the actual thing you can play in the arena. So it loses a lot of its like choice value. And we put a lot of stock in choice value because we're good infinite players, right? We want to be making more choices. And the more the game makes you make a choice, the better we can stand out in it. And Arcane Dynamo in Mage fails that a lot of the times, even though the spells you can get are generally on average pretty decent, right?
You just pick the Pyroblast every time. Go face. All right. So
Paladin.
That's kind of it for Mage.
Paladin's at a 120 for Arcane Dynamo. By the way, if you look at all this, like Druid was really high, right? At like 130. Partly because all this is centered for the class. So all Druid stuff is a little high because normal Druid stuff is not very good. So whenever they get like a neutral card that's pretty good, it goes up pretty high. But so here's Arcane Dynamo for Paladin at 120, and this suffers from the opposite thing. Paladin cards are really good generally in the arena. So a 120 is actually pretty damn good in Paladin for a neutral card.
Yeah, Paladin has a lot of good cards and some good spells too. But once again, you might not think of this because you might consider Paladins as having lots of small spells, but they have 10 spells that cost 5 or more. So your probability to discover a specific one is 30%. If you absolutely need that steed, not like a super high chance to get it. But like with the Druid, you're going to see a decent variety here. If you want a buff, you're going to get Steed and Dino Size. You have Lay on Hands for draw. Paladins don't really have removal. So unlike the Mage, in which you're guaranteed kind of a pretty big removal, your removal option is just Shrink Ray, which is fine, but
Hey, Avenging Wrath. Avenging Wrath wants a word with you.
Yeah, I mean, Avenging Wrath is there. It's just not big enough anymore.
Sorry. Holy Wrath wants a word with you. That's infinite damage
true.
almost.
That's true. Yeah, just get those giants in your deck and you're good to go. You can also find the legendary spell, Kangler's Endless Army. Paladins will have some mechs, and you can get a reload as well. So Paladin is kind of similar to Druid, and that has a lot of options, but Druid just has so much more initiative, like out of hand initiative that they can find. And Paladins, you're looking for buffs, you have card draw, you have some direct damage, not so great, but yeah, you will have a lot of options with Paladin.
All right. Now we're going to look at Priest, which is 117 Arcane Dynamo.
Yeah, not surprisingly, Priest has the most options. They have 12 spells. So your probability to discover a specific one is 25%. Not super high, but a lot of options here, right? You have your Mind Control. You have your Free from Amber if you want the value. So those are sort of value, and with Mind Control, it's a removal. You have a decent shot of getting AoE, whether it's from Psychic Scream or Holy Nova, right? And if you just want direct damage, like just some sort of removal, then we can lump in Psychic Scream, Nova, Mind Control, Holy Fire, Holy Water, right? If we just sort of expand that category a little bit. So with Priest, you can feel very confident if you just want a card that's big and gets value. I mean, all of these kind of fit the bill. But if you want AoE or if you want some direct damage, you have a decent shot of getting it. So Priest, it's pretty good. Their spells are their big spells are really good.
Mm-hmm. All right. Rogue is at a 161.
So with Rogue, I'm surprised
I'm
it
surprised
is
it's
that high.
161. I think that may be bugged. I'm almost
Hmm.
certain that's bugged. There's no way that's right.
But let's talk about the spells that are offered. So Rogue, we went from Paladin, which had a lot, Priest, which has the most, to Rogue, which only has six spells within the pool. So your probability is about like 50% to find something. You are almost guaranteed to have either card draw or removal because within those six spells, two of them are Sprint and Myra's Unstable Element, which we're not huge fans of, but it is still lots of draw. And with removal, you have Assassinate and Spellstone, right? So out of the six spells, two are huge draws, two are big single target removals. And then, you also have like Vanish in there as well for some AoE removal, like some pseudo removal. So that's kind of what Rogue has. If you need a removal or if you need draw, you got a decent shot of getting it with the Rogue spell.
Yep. So this 161, I'm pretty sure is bugged. We're checking it right now.
Mhm. Anyways, that's sort
Anyway,
of
we're
how.
we're moving up to Shaman.
Yeah.
And Shaman's at a 122.
So Shaman is fairly good, but a lot of the cards are a little bit conditional. Shaman has only 5 spells, so not many spells at all. You have a very, very high chance to get a specific one. It's about 60%. Uh, you only have one AoE option in Volcano, but once again, pretty high shot to get the Volcano. You have Bloodlust for board buffs. You also have the Stormbringer, which is the legendary spell. So these are for board, right? If you already have a board, you want Bloodlust, you want the Stormbringer. And also Spellstone for Shaman. It's not that great. It's a little bit awkward. And Eureka, which is not that great either. But when you cast the shot or when you play Arcane Dynamo for Shaman, you're really just looking for Volcano or probably like either Bloodlust or the Stormbringer. And you have like you're guaranteed to get at least one of those.
Mm-hmm. And now to Warlock, where it is a 99.
Yeah, that's well, it's just because Warlock already has innate card draw, right?
Yep.
So
All
but
Warlock draws are pretty low.
all Warlock draws are pretty low, but I will say Warlock only has 5 spells within the pool. They're all really freaking good. So if you want a specific one, once again, it's about 60% chance to get it. For pure, like 4 of the 5 cards are removal. So you're getting a removal. It's just about the size of the removal. Because out of these 4 removals, you have two, I would call them pure removals. One is Siphon Soul, another is Twisting Nether. And then you have two sort of like combo or like dual removals. So you have Feeding Time and you have Bane of Doom, right? So they deal some damage and they summon stuff on your side of the board. Whatever you need in terms of big removal or small removal, you're going to get it. So for Warlock, this thing has much more of a guarantee than for a classic Priest or Paladin.
And finally, for Warrior. So we've been only doing one card so far, by the way. That's how
Yeah, I
different this
know.
card is for every single class.
We just have to do this.
Yeah.
We have to go
Yeah.
through
Because
this.
this is not a card where you're like, oh, it's a little better for this class than that class. No, this is like a card in which you use it to like tutor out a spell. Like if you're familiar from like MTG. Like to pick a specific spell that you want that will help you right now.
Yep.
So
Okay.
in Warrior,
So
it is a 92.
92. Yeah, this is just not that great. Warrior big spells are not as good as big spells in other classes. You have 7 to pick from, so your chance to get a specific one is about like 43%. You will probably get some sort of AoE. Now, how good the AoE is will differ because you have Brawl, and then you have the Boom ship, which is I consider that AOE, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you also have Deadly Arsenal, which is questionable AOE, but AOE nonetheless. You are
If you
able to
guys
get.
don't know, Deadly Arsenal is 6 mana, reveal a weapon from your deck, deal its attack to all minions.
Have you ever seen that
Never,
card?
ever seen it.
I've never seen it getting. Yeah, never ever in the arena. But anyways,
Like, we kind of have to tell people what this card is. There's no way people know this card.
yeah, I know. You can also get Spellstone, but once again, you're discovering a Spellstone, and then you have to play like a couple weapons. It's going to be really slow, and you can get UnID'd Shield for armor, and roll the dice on that. Also see you're looking at Sudden Genesis. I was not going to talk about that, but we can talk about it just to highlight the fact that yeah, you have a decent shot at getting questionable AOE, or the rest of the cards just are really not good. You can see why the card is just not good, and for warriors.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, end conclusion. How good is Arcane Dynamo? Which class would you actually use it in?
Oh man!
Like, would you ever take it over, like, let's not say Primordial Drake, which is the top card in the bucket. I don't think you ever take it over Primordial Drake. But would you ever take it over a Bone Mare?
I think you could take it over Bone Mare. I think you could take it over a Scalebane, depending on your deck, right? Let's look at a couple of these classes and how these classes are sometimes built. Like, for example, Mage or Priest, right? These are cards that can just control a lot and try to outvalue. We've seen cards like Arcane Dynamo, in which they give you another card. You're able to put down a body. It's not a great body, but it's something out there, and you're just able to put it out there and draw a card, right? Which has been really good. And also for Mage and Priest, you have a good shot of getting AoE or just getting removals, which goes to your game plan anyways. So I can see for like those classes, yeah, for those two classes, for certain decks, you would definitely want it over Scalebane. You definitely want it over Bone Mare because you're not playing on the board that much anyways. For other classes, it gets kind of like Hunter. Even though you can guarantee removal, man, that it slows you down so much, right? You're paying 6 mana for a 3/4 body, and then you're only paying for minion removal, right? So it
Bone
really
Mare
kind
may
of
be 8 mana, but it's 4 reach.
It's 4 reach, exactly. So with Hunter, I have a really tough time seeing how you can take this over the Bone Mare. And it'll be deck dependent, it'll be class dependent as well. But hopefully, this very long segment just gives you an idea of like, okay, what does Arcane Dynamo mean for this class, right? Like, for rogues, it's draw and removal. For mage, it's purely AoE. For priest, overall, it's like value, right? Paladin and druid is kind of a grab bag. Warrior, it just sucks. And for warlock, it's removal, like purely removal, whether it's big or small. So these are like, keep that in mind, because this is a card. It's in the first bucket. You won't pick it that often, but when you do, you better know what you're fishing for. Because if you don't, then you shouldn't be picking it, period.
Yeah, it's a little bit over bucketed. And so you generally don't want to pick it, but it's a fun card. And in certain decks, if you need the consistency of being able to pull that like extra bloodlust or that extra removal, especially these days when spells are very hard to come by, like it's a card you take. You just have to know what you're doing. It is very much an expert's pick one, even though it has a pretty serious random element too, depending on the class. I think because it is a discover card, and discover cards generally get are not as well used by average players as they are by good players. I have a strong feeling this will be moved down a bucket once Blizzard gets the data in, and I'm okay with that as well. So I would kind of lean against this in the beginning unless you really think you know what you're doing or your deck is really going in a certain way. It is a little bit over bucketed, but not egregiously so. Okay. So the next card, and this is the only other card we're going to do in this series because we have spent 25 minutes already on Arcane Dynamo. We are going to talk about Missile Launcher. Missile Launcher is the only card in the second bucket. And it is in the second bucket. Okay, so our list is a little bit skewed. So all of these say it's in the bottom half of a bucket, but I think that means it's all no, it is in the bottom half of the bucket. That's right. Okay, so Missile Launcher is a 6-mana 4/4 mech, and its ability is at the end of your turn, deal 1 damage to all other characters. That includes face. It is also magnetic. This is a really freaking weird card, right? That's the first thing that should hit you about this card. You don't really know what to do with it. We had a hard time trying to figure out what to do with it. But at its base, it's not a very good card. Like, if it's a 6-mana 4/4 and didn't have magnetic, it'd be something like a 100. Like, it's situationally useful. You kind of want that double-sided board clear here and there. The pings are useful, especially for a neutral card. It is a mech. You can buff stuff on top of it. But it's costing you, right? Like, it's fairly costed. Its bonus is really in the fact that it's magnetic. But what are you going to do with it if it's magnetic? Well, it's a blessing of kings if it's magnetic. So it's in this weird position where you want to keep this alive, but you want to buff it on something to really get the most use out of your, like, to get the initiative, right, out of this card. It's also reach. This is the thing about magnetic cards with a lot of attack. If you have a mech on the board, this just gave you 4 more damage of reach. So we have it at a 121 right now. If you look at where the rest of this bucket is for neutrals, it's like 110, Basilisk is 165. It's kind of all over the place. It's definitely not one of the higher cards in the bucket. It could maybe be one bucket lower, but I think it's generally fine where it is. You'll take it sometimes, but obviously only take it in mech decks. It is a magnetic card. You may look at it and think, oh, I don't know, it seems like it's doing a lot of other stuff, but a lot of the value really is in the fact that you could use it as a blessing of kings. And so, yeah, it's Missile Launcher. It's a very interesting card. I think it's one of those rare instances here where they took an interesting card and they bucketed it highly, and it should be highly bucketed. A lot of the times, it's like, here's an interesting card. We're going to put it 3 buckets below where it should be. But yeah, that's Missile Launcher. And I think we'll end this one here. We've gone over the first 2 buckets. Very interesting cards. Which is 2 cards. Very interesting cards. Questionable whether you should take them. But none of them so egregiously misbucketed that we would be like, stay away from them, right? Like, these did not make the list that we had in the very first episode of this whole series for a reason. It's because you could take them. And in the right deck, they're good. So lean into that, and you know, hopefully you have fun with these cards, because they are very good designs, I think. And you know, give it a week and they'll be bucketed correctly wherever they're supposed to be. If anything, they'll get under bucketed, because these are, like we said, right, they're interesting, confusing cards, and that means average players are going to not use them to their maximum capacity, which means their win rates are not going to be as high as they should be, which means they're all going to get moved down once Blizzard sees it and goes like, oh, this is not a good win rate for the card. So that's it from us for the first edition of the neutral cards. We will follow this up with kind of the middle ground of the neutral cards, which is buckets 3 through 5. And then we'll have a third segment on 6, 7, and the legendaries. 6 and 7 being the buckets that are actually reduced in offering rate, so you'll see them less often. So once again, this is Adwicta.
This is Merps.
And a huge shout out. I wanted to give a shout out to all of our fans and the people who are watching us or listening to us or wherever you may be. Thank you guys so much for supporting us. Share us with a friend or an enemy that you want to bore for 6 hours. Be like, hey, I do better in the arena than you, but if you want to do as good as me, you should listen to these guys. Yeah, and you should start right here. That's right, in their 6-hour podcast. No, there's no video available. There's a video available. It's on YouTube. If anyone's actually doing this to you, like, and you want to watch a video and you want to actually see the cards, go to YouTube. It's there. But yeah, do that. Spread the word. And if you are as insane about this as we are, buckle in. We got about 4 more hours of this coming. So we'll see you in the next episode.
See ya.